now we're going to talk about part 6 of the detailing series, and today we're going to talk about the microfiber towels, basics of microfibers. So it can be a little bit overwhelming because if you go to a website, they will have a lot of different microfiber towels, right? You might be asking yourself, what do all these terms mean? GSM, pile, thickness, plushness, density. So I'm going to try and break all that down. All right. So GSM stands for grams per square meter. That's essentially the density of the towel. Now, density doesn't necessarily mean more plush. The plushness has something to do with the density, but also has to do with the pile and how it's woven. The pile is essentially the term that's used for the length of the fibers on the towel, and then how it's woven. So when you combine all of them together, that kind of determines whether it is a thick plush towel or a more thin towel. Now, the rule of thumb for all high quality microfiber towels, what you want to look for is a term called 70-30. So you want 70-30, and it has to do with the poly type materials that are used in it. I believe 70% of them is like a polyester type, and the other 30% is a different poly type. 80-20 is obviously better. Anything less than that, and you start to look at a diminished quality of towel. I'm here to tell you that most places over the counter, your AutoZones, your O'Reillys, your Walmarts, and whatever, most of them are not going to be a 70-30 microfiber towel mix. It's going to be a lower quality. So you got to get those online. Best place I have found to get good quality microfibers from is the Rag Company. That's who I use. They're good quality and they're budget friendly. I was getting a super soft 500 GSM plush towel from Adams. I believe they call it their double soft, and it runs around $11.99, $12.99 per towel. The same kind of microfiber towel from the Rag Company, it's called the Everest 500 GSM, and it's literally half the cost. I want to say it's like $3.99 or $4.99 on the website. So really great value, and they feel pretty much almost identical. So shop around, you get good deals, but I have always consistently found great deals and great quality towels from the Rag Company. So that's who I use. I will show you the specific ones that I use when I go through my regimen. All right. So then I talked about the piles, right? The pile has to do with basically the length of the fibers. Okay. So all that being said, what makes most sense for different things, right? So got the whiteboard, and I'm going to show you right here. So I actually have a little piece of microfiber down here. All right. So microfiber. GSM, right? The more you get, generally speaking, if you're talking about a 70-30 or 80-20 high quality towel, the more dense it's going to be. But like I said, the pile has a lot to do with it, okay? Thicker and more plush is easier on the paint, but also remember that it's going to absorb more, all right? So you may want to gravitate towards a really soft, plush towel that feels almost like silk. That's nice and thick, because in your mind, you're just like, oh, that's going to be super gentle on my paint. It is. But remember that it's also going to soak up a lot of product. So if you're using it with Quick Detailer, for example, this is a lesson that I've learned, is those really nice, big, soft plush towels, they're going to soak up a lot of the spray that you put on there. So that's less spray that you're working into your paint, and more that's being just sucked up by the towel. There's a time and a place for that, though, and I'll talk about that when we go over the towels that I use. So just keep that in mind. Also, the thicker the towel, the less positive feel you're going to have through it down to your paint. right? So the plush ones are really nice for like a final buff when you've got product pretty much all removed. The ones that are a little bit thinner work a little bit better for removing product because you get a little bit more feel. You know, you can feel the caked up product, whether it be a compound or polish, whatever underneath, and then you can feel it buff away to reveal a smooth surface on the paint. All right. Long versus short pile. The longer the pile, the more plush it's going to feel. Also, the longer the pile and the more plush it is, the worse the towel is at removing stuff that doesn't really want to get removed, right? What do I mean by that? So waxes and sealants, for the most part, come off pretty easy. You can use a longer pile, real plush towel on them. Your compounds and your polishes are heavier products, and so when those things are worked into the paint, and to remove them, especially some compounds, they're pretty stubborn. They don't want to come off. So the shorter piles are going to be a little bit more grabby, and so be easier to allow you to work the product off. Also, the shorter the pile, the more pressure in the immediate area will be when you press down, whereas the longer pile, more plush towels are going to basically spread your load out a little bit more, right? All right, so next bullet is, okay, yeah, so for removal of compounds, polishes, waxes, or sealants, typically you're looking at a 350 to a 500 GSM rag, okay? The compounds are gonna be more towards the 350 range. Your polishes, 350 to in your 400 range. And then if you want to, you can use the 500s for waxes and sealants, although using something in the 4s for waxes and sealants is fine. I actually have, for removing some of my stuff, I'm below the 500 range is what I have, okay? For applying detailers, okay? This kind of is personal preference, but you want to be around a 350, you know, maybe a 4, because again, you don't want the towel, if you're applying a detailer, you don't want the towel soaking up all your product, okay? Now, for a final buff, all right, at least a 350, but for a final buff or even a dusting, it makes a little bit more sense to have the more plush towel because everything's off your car. You've gotten all your product off your car. It's just the finished paint. And so now you take a real plush towel and you can mist it with your quick detailer to get it damp, not wet. You shouldn't want it so wet that, you know, if you lay it on the car and then you pick it up, it leaves actual liquid behind. You just want it damp, and then use that as a final wipe down buffing towel, and then the thicker, more plush ones are good for that. Okay, so, but it's personal preference, all right? And then there's one down here where I put on here. Yeah, okay, sorry. So yeah, just personal preference. So that's basically the big thing. So GSM, just remember, if you're reading online, you know, a towel that's called, the Super Buffer 500. More than likely that means that it's got 500 GSM, right? Rag Company makes one that's called the Creature 420. It's 420 GSM. So all things being equal, if it's a 70-30 or 80-20, the GSMs generally mean it's more dense, okay? Whether or not that means it's more plush or soft is going to be the GSM combined with the long pile, right? Shorter pile tends to be a little bit thinner rag, okay? So, I prefer on the paint and basically any part of the exterior of the car, I prefer to use a microfiber because they are your best guard against putting an unintended scratch or something like that on your car. Have lots of them, all right? If you have a black car like I do, everything shows up on your car, so I may be a little bit more like, you know, obsessive over the towels because I have just tons of towels for completely different purposes, right? So I have a towel that's just for this product. I have another towel that's just for that product. And then when it comes to like my pads, I have certain pads for certain products. I even have certain pads for certain parts of the car. So to make sure that I don't mistakenly contaminate, pick up a contaminant on a pad and bring it over to a different panel of the car, I have pads that are just for my fender, a pad that's just for my my door. So that also helps my pads last longer. I'm not using a pad down the entire side of the car. So yeah, microfiber towels, can't have enough. For the interior of your car, doesn't really matter. Vinyl, leather is going to be pretty good. I actually have a pack of terry cloths, not microfiber, for the interior because they tend to be a little bit better for agitation and scrubbing. So I will use those with a cleaner on the inside to clean and then condition the vinyl and stuff like that on the interior. And then terry towels or microfiber towels are good for the engine bay. Same thing, if you've got parts in your engine that are nice and smooth and shiny and stuff, you don't want to put any scratches on them, use a soft microfiber towel on them. Otherwise, you can use a terry cloth for areas like that. So that is towels, okay? Applicators, all right? Since what I put on is sealants, glazes, and waxes, I like the good old-fashioned foam applicator. They're soft. They are very versatile. They will work with thicker liquids such as a glaze. They will also work really good with thinner liquids like the sealant or even a paste carnauba wax, because the high-end carnauba waxes, or even though they're a paste, when you wipe them with the pad, they're essentially a liquid on the pad. So just a good old-fashioned foam pad. If you want to use microfiber, you can. I have found that the microfibers, again, absorb a little more of the product, so it just depends on what you're wanting to use it for. If you're wanting an applicator to be kind of damp with the product and leave a very, very thin layer on top, go ahead and use a microfiber. Otherwise, your foam pads are pretty good. I have 6 Pinnacle little yellow classic foam pads on the way that I'm going to use for putting on my sealant and my wax. So my glaze I'm actually going to put on with a pad, a pad for my actual machine to help me spread it out good. I like doing the sealant and the wax by hand because it's relaxing to me. Wax on, wax off. Make your jokes now. But yeah, it's the glazes, the polishing, right, and all that stuff, right, that's hard work, and so I let the machine do all the work. Putting on a wax or sealant is easy. You don't have to press or anything like that, so it's almost like painting. You're just kind of going back and forth and getting a nice even coat on it. So I like to do it. So anyways, that covers towels and applicators and stuff like that. So that brings us to pretty much all she wrote on 101 on products. So we've covered towels, we've covered applicators, we've covered the polishing pads, we've covered the tools like dual action versus your rotary, we've covered the differences in paint corrections, the difference between actual correction and fillers, we've covered compounds, polishes, and glazes, sealants and waxes and coatings. So that's pretty much all the basics. So the next video that I make, it'll be a minute because I still have some products en route that aren't supposed to get here for about another week according to FedEx. So we'll see if they get here sooner. But once I get those products in and I organize them, I will make a video with all the products and kind of walk you through how I start, what product, and how I use it all the way to the end. So that'll be probably a little bit longer video. So until then, hope this was educational for you and that you enjoyed. Thank you.